All right, welcome to KYTL podcast. My name is Sam.
And I am Ian.
Ian's here. You know, Jack and Sarah, don't even worry about hosting Cape Your Torchlit. Don't even worry about it. You know, Ian will
You've been
come.
replaced.
He'll come and replace you. He will host in your place.
Yeah, you've been completely replaced. It's honestly disgraceful, but now you'll have to deal with a new host in town. So
New host in town. It's like
George. I said, George, don't worry about editing seasons 2, 3, and 4. Like, don't worry about it. I got it covered.
Yeah. Jackson said, don't even worry about voting.
Yes, exactly. Just like Nate's vote. Don't even worry,
Yeah.
Nate. You don't even need to vote.
You don't even need to vote. Don't even need to host. Yeah, so great to have you on, Ian. For those of you who don't know, Ian is a lead editor for Survivor Michigan Season 4, Wolverine Wars, also Seasons 2 and 3. So have an expert on our hands here. It's been seeing
encyclopedic knowledge
of
what is going on. I've seen way too much footage over the years.
Oh, so much footage. So speaking of the footage, what did you think of that Godfather Dale bit? I love how you just had the cold open into Godfather Dale.
I mean, Godfather Dale was incredible. That was one of those bits that, like, you were watching that, you've seen that footage, and as the editor, you're just waiting to get to use it. All season, you're just waiting for the Godfather Dale footage because it's just amazing content. And it was like, it would have felt wrong to start with the previously on Survivor, you know? It would have felt like it wasn't doing justice to just how funny Godfather Dale. It felt like he needed his own moment of this man held on to 2 idols. They're all coming after him. He has the balls. Like, this man is someone said in the post episode poll that Dale's balls were like on the ground. Like, that's how large his balls were if I hold on to those. And I honestly have to agree. Like, Diamond Hands Dale, like, that deserves credit, and that deserves just his own entrance of the Godfather just waltzing in.
It's absolutely
You're gonna talk about me? You try to come after me? I can't do it.
No, we do it with the pinkies. Yeah. You break them off, crack.
Yeah. I put a little like splice, like a bone crunching noise when he crunched the pinkies.
I noticed that. That was amazing. Oh my god. Yeah. What's the power rankings of the different Dale personas? I mean, we have Mardi Gras Dale, we have Danger Dale, we have Godfather Dale, Drunk Dale.
I'm trying to think of this. Is there one we're forgetting?
Mustache
there's
Boy,
also a Couch Boy.
Couch Boy. Yep.
I think the Godfather is like, it's the most powerful version of Dale. I feel like it's the most confident. I feel like it's like the Godfather, Danger Dale, regular Dale maybe.
Yep.
Mardi Gras Boy, Couch Boy, Drunk Dale. Drunk Dale has to be at the bottom.
Drunk Dale is the bottom of the power rankings. Okay, so here's the thing though: is Drunk Dale the bottom of the power rankings, or is Drunk Dale like the most powerful version that Dale could ever be?
I mean, he successfully blindsides Jackson while drunk, but honestly, I think that, like, if you add, like, sober Dale probably didn't want to actually tell everyone about the idols, and so ultimately, like, he did make some kind of sketchy moves while drunk, and some of the stuff he was saying to Shannon also, like, there's really no way to portray that as a good move. Like, telling her, like, you'll never take me to the end, like, you shouldn't take me to the end. That's not smart. That doesn't make sense. You shouldn't be doing that.
You know, the one thing I will say is, like, I feel like a lot of people in the comments were kind of ripping on Dale for telling Matthew and Shannon about the idols, but I'm thinking, like, they're going to find out anyways. Like, he's about to play them at Final 6 and supposedly Final 5. It's like either they find out now or they find out at Tribal Council. I personally think it's actually a good move for him to have shown them the idols, because would you rather have them be blindsided at Tribal, like, wow, I can't believe you didn't tell me about this idol, or like ahead of time you already know, like, oh, okay, Dale's gonna play this, like, he already told me he has it.
Yeah, I think it would have maybe made sense to tell them about 1 and say that the last time you could play it is at 6, but I feel like there's not a real rationale. Like, if you want to do anything crazy with the idol at Final 5, you almost, like, not that you can't now, but it makes it much more difficult if people know you have an idol, versus, like, if people don't know you have it, you could, potentially do something really crazy with it at Final 5 if you want to, So
that's true. I didn't think about that.
I think it goes both. On the other hand, it does, it makes you look like, I guess, more honest with them that you told them about it.
Yeah, that's true.
I
It
feel like it
really
goes
does
both
seem like
ways.
it seems like Dale's really like kind of centering his game around the Final Four at this point. Like he's kind of, he made it through that attempted blindside. He has his two idols at 6 and 5. It seems like he's really like looking towards Final Four as like his pivotal moment. And it seems like he's kind of almost like not that he's glossed over Final 6 and Final 5, but he's like, I'm safe. I have idols. Like whatever. I don't care who knows about them. Like,
Yeah, I think he has felt so confident for so long that he felt comfortable telling people about the idols and felt like at this point his game is get to Final Four and win the challenge and go from there. I feel like that's just what he's playing at this point. He knows that by playing these idols he's becoming an even bigger threat. So it's just like get to Final Four, win the challenge. I think that's what he's thinking at this point.
yeah. I mean, speaking of people telling people about idols and secrets, let's talk about Jackson telling Dale about his vote steal.
A bad move. I wouldn't have done
Bad
that.
move. Yeah.
I think there's something ironic to me about the fact that Jackson stole the vote of the only person who might have voted with Jackson. Like if Jackson steals anyone else's vote, it could have been 3-3, and Jackson and Nate are both immune because Nate won immunity, and if the votes are on Jackson, Jackson has no reason to flip his vote either because in a rock draw scenario, he's safe. So like Jackson and
That's
Nate.
a scenario I'm really curious about what would happen if he had stolen somebody else's vote and him.
Yeah,
and
so
Nate
like let's say he
like
steals Shannon's vote. Then on the revote, Jackson doesn't get a vote, but he still gets one vote because he gets Shannon's vote. So it's probably 2-2 again on the revote if Nate doesn't flip. And like, why does Nate want to flip at that point, right?
That's true. Yeah.
If he's with Jackson through the first vote, I feel like he has no reason to flip the second vote. And now it's like either Jackson and Nate can just force rocks and both be immune, and then somebody else goes home.
So in this case, do you think that
and it would be between
Dale
Cat
still
and
plays
Matthew?
the idol? Does Dale still play the idol on himself if Jackson steals Shannon's vote?
That's interesting. Does he just play the idol on Shannon and send Jackson home?
Or does he get like paranoid? Like, does he play two idols? Like, what does he do? That's what I'm curious. What does Dale do?
That would have been crazy. I feel like he probably plays it for himself, honestly.
I think he probably would.
Then it ends up in a scenario where just Cat and Matthew draw rocks.
Because Dale's not going to risk having to go to rocks. He's not going to risk Jackson and Nate like putting votes onto him. Because if Jackson does something unexpected, for all he knows, Jackson and Nate could have put their votes on him too. Like,
yeah, if Jackson does something that Dale doesn't know about and Dale doesn't play the idol on himself, like Dale's the dumbest person in the universe, right?
Yeah.
So
I guess in that scenario, then
I think it ends with Cat and Matthew draw rocks. That's honestly what I think happens.
Or what? Do you think that one of them flips and just votes for Shannon?
Oh yeah, Matthew might have.
Matthew's not going to rocks for Shannon.
He's not going to rocks. Yeah.
No. Cat wouldn't care. She's going to say like whatever.
But that's the thing. If Matthew doesn't flip on the first vote though, it's going to rocks because Cat and Nate are going to be like, no, it's rocks. Like Cat's not going to flip and agree to vote out Shannon.
Yeah. So that really seems like that's what Jackson should have done then.
How is he supposed to know though? How is he supposed to know?
There's no way he would have known. I mean, I've as much as before we get too far ahead as far as like what Jackson should have done, I also want to talk about whether he made the correct move at Final 7 and or whether he should have went along with Ivy's plan or not.
I think he definitely should have, but he didn't know that's what he should have done is the thing. Because like the fact that Ivy wants to take Jackson to the end is probably a winning game for Jackson. Or like a close to it, at least. I think Jackson has a really good chance to win if it's like him, Ivy, Nate, which is what Ivy wanted to have. Like if Dale goes home at 7, next week Ivy comes after Shannon. Now Jackson steal a vote. You might not even need it to get out Shannon. And even if you do, it's easy for you guys to get out Shannon. You, Nate, Ivy is already 3. Like maybe Matthew gets on board at this point. Like who knows? It seems like that's a really good scenario for you. Now you're the biggest threat now. Like whatever at 5. If Ivy's still with you, you get rid of Matthew, and now you just win the challenge. I think that he should have done it. The issue is that, from his point of view, why would Ivy ever want to take him to the end?
I mean, that's the thing too. Yeah.
Like
I mean, in that case, even if Ivy had said she wants to take Jackson to the end, do you think that after they take out Jackson and Shannon at Final Five, do you think that Ivy's still going to stick with Jackson when she has Matthew and Kat and Nate all around, and they're probably saying like,
It's
why don't
it's
we just vote off
hard.
Jackson?
That's the thing. It's hard to imagine that Jackson isn't in big trouble at 5. Like if he doesn't, it's hard to imagine that with Shannon after Shannon goes, that Jackson isn't just like next on the block. You know?
Yeah, he really did have like a very tight path to get to the end. Like
Yeah,
he had, and at this point, like from his perspective and what he knew, I understand why he made the moves he made. But there's just so much I guess he just didn't know. Like
yeah,
the idols and Dale's idols really threw him off. I think because like he didn't realize that Dale didn't need shields anymore, and he
yeah.
didn't know that Ivy actually was going to take him to the end. He didn't know that Nate was the only person that was actually with him at Final Six. So it's kind of like those unknowns will add up and they'll get you.
What you don't know is sometimes a lot worse than what you do know in this
Yeah,
game. And
yeah.
in this case, Jackson just there was a lot that he didn't know. Didn't know about the idols. Didn't know Ivy was going to actually take him to the end. So
Now, one of the things that they did know is that they cannot vote for Nate
the
because the
puzzler,
puzzler strikes again.
lightning strikes twice.
Lightning strikes twice,
Yeah,
as
I
they
mean,
say.
in terms of Survivor Michigan, at least Nate, I think, has solidified himself this episode as one of the bigger challenge threats on Survivor Michigan. Like in Survivor Michigan, you actually have not seen a lot of like people being scared of like specific people winning challenges. Like that really hasn't been a thing on the show that like anyone has really become like the challenge threat. You know, like they're winning a lot of challenges. Nate has won
Yeah,
every puzzle challenge put in front of him. You know, like
yeah. I would say other than Brady last season, like it's really not been a big thing throughout all the seasons. And like even then, it was like the Brady thing. I feel like it's different where Brady was kind of like in one side where there's two sides. This is like there's just like one side. So it's just like all Tokidokis, and then there's just like
and Nate.
Nate. Yeah, who just keeps messing up all their plans every week. Like,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it was so funny. I mean,
I will
I
say
love
that
that.
I was editing this challenge. I was like genuinely shocked that nobody besides Nate got outwit or outplay.
Oh
Outplay.
yeah,
Like they're given the clue of it had P in the middle and it's 7 letters and you're playing Survivor and you can't figure out that one of the words is outplay. Like does that genuinely doesn't make any sense to me. That's like if you're doing
nah,
a crossword about like Star Wars
foreplay.
and one of the
Foreplay
word
is the word.
one of the words is like Skywalker and you can't figure it out. Like how did Dale or Jackson or Matthew or Shannon not figure out that it was outplay? Like, I'm sorry.
That's true. No, that's so true though. I mean, Tokido. It's just like I feel like the theme of this season for a long time was like, oh, Tokidoki's so dominant in all the challenges, but it's just like their one like kryptonite is like anything doing with puzzles. Like of course, like the North
Yeah.
Campus. What did Dale call them? North Campus
We're
nerds. Like
campus
they're just
nerds.
destroy. They kill them at every single puzzle. Like they just cannot win anything doing with puzzles. Like
It's just Nate.
it's
It's
so
just
funny.
Nate.
It's literally just Nate. Yeah, actually. I mean, going all the way back to like when he won that challenge that they were supposed to throw, and they were all like pissed about it. Like he's just been like messing with them for so long because of these puzzles. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Kat actually was like rooting for Nate to win though. She wanted to go to bed.
Oh yeah. She just wanted it to be over. She was just like, I was like, thank God he won because I wanted to go to bed. That's something I love
She's
about Kat on the show. I think Kat is
yeah,
like she's like almost an audience surrogate type character where she's just a regular person who has been dropped into this and has so little interest in it at all that she just wants it to be over at every stage, but never quits. Is just like but just doesn't want to be there. And it's genuinely hilarious. It's just pure
it
comedy.
really is. I love Kat. I feel like some people get Kat and they like think she's hilarious, and some people just like really don't get it. They just don't like her, which is fine. I mean, some people I understand the perspective. Like
She's like
your
trapped in the
favorites.
game.
Yeah, it's just if you look at it from like a humorous perspective of like this person does not want to be here. Like Kat is being held hostage playing Survivor Michigan. Like
Like that
and
is funny. It
it's
is
funny.
genuinely
It's
kind of
funny.
funny.
It really is.
When you look
Um,
at it from the perspective of like all these people who like love Survivor so much and got voted out, but Kat's still in, it's kind of tragic.
It is, but I feel like that's how you. But you gotta love that about the cast, that we didn't cast 16 people who all love Survivor the same exact amount. I mean, obviously you want to cast people who want to be there, but I feel like it's interesting to watch people that have different perspectives and different opinions, like playing the same game. If everyone had the same opinions and we're all game body and they all love Survivor and knew every season and blah blah, it's like you can't have it just wouldn't be as interesting.
I agree.
You can't have every single person have a Matthew Israel level like commitment to Survivor. Like
Yeah.
Matthew, you can't have every person be like Cat either, or else nothing would happen. You
I
need to
think
have people all spectrum.
I think Kat adds a really good like dynamic that you don't often see of like someone who like genuinely doesn't want to be there, but also isn't like she's not boring. She's still a good presence. She's still like a lot of the people on the show who really don't want to be there just get voted out early. Like AJ or I don't know. AJ is the best example because I guess he tried to vote himself out. AJ
Yeah.
or like maybe like Emily Levy. Like some of these people they like really didn't really want to be doing it, and so they just kind of like they get voted out early.
Aaron
But
Murphy.
Aaron Murphy. But Kat, like, she still is like filming confessionals. Like, she's still being very funny. Like, she's putting effort into at least participating in the show in the sense of she's putting effort into being entertaining, even if she's not putting a lot of effort into like winning the game.
Yeah, exactly. Like she doesn't love the game, but she cares about the show, which I think is good.
I would agree with that.
It's just funny. Sarah and Jack and we had this little gag we were talking about where we're talking about this future season of Survivor Michigan season 20, night owls versus early risers. Kat would be on the early risers tribe. She cannot stand staying up late.
Yes.
See, that's the season that Kat would dominate. See, if things are scheduled in the middle of the day, Kat has her full 8 hours of sleep every day. We're going to see a whole different side of Kat. She'll have the capacity to strategize finally.
Yeah, all she needs is to get some sleep, dude. If she just could have gotten Nate voted out weeks ago, she probably wins the game because she's getting more sleep.
100%. It's literally all it was. She
Yeah.
just needs some sleep. We'll see if Nate ends up going. Does Kat's game improve or not? I guess that's something to look out for. But yeah, Kat would be in the early risers tribe. Austin Pace would obviously also be in the early risers tribe.
Mm-hmm.
People they're going to bed early. And they just run the game. It'd be over so fast.
Yeah, I'd be on the Night Owls tribe. We get wrecked. We get absolutely wrecked.
Yep. Kat wins some. She's won a lot of challenges this season. I'm sure she would continue to win more challenges.
Get that idol thrown at her every time.
Oh, of course. So after the challenge, Tokidoki has to turn on each other again. And so, I mean, from looking at the footage, I know how the way the episode kind of went was it shows like Jackson, he's ready to make a move. He has his vote steal. Was Shannon ready to turn on Jackson right away? Or was she first trying to get out Matthew? Like, how did that whole thing go?
No, at first Shannon really thought that they were all just trying to vote out Kat, and she was like she really was sort of considering getting out Matthew first. But she actually had wanted Jackson out even more than Matthew. She just didn't really think anybody was actually going to do it, is the thing. So she thought she could more easily get Jackson and Dale to vote out Matthew to save Kat, basically. She's like, well, I don't want it to be Kat. I feel like Jackson and Dale will more easily vote out Matthew, But she wanted Jackson out of the game forever. And so then when she's like talking to Dale and she's like, the first time she brings up voting Jackson, I think it's because she senses a sense of like, maybe not weakness, but she senses an opening that, wait a second, maybe Dale is open to voting Jackson, which I think he ultimately was, even though in that meeting he still was not really completely committed to it. But I think she sensed that this was something that maybe she was okay bringing up now.
Interesting.
And she kind of goes from there.
It seems like Kat is like thrown out as an option at the beginning of the week every episode, and then it was just like moves on to somebody else instead.
Yes, I believe that is a fact that Kat, I think in episodes 11, 10, 9, at least in those episodes, maybe more, honestly. I'd have to go farther back. I think
definitely episode 3 when Adam was voted out. It was between him and Kat.
almost every time that Kat is going to tribal, her name is thrown out by somebody because they know that it's like a name you can throw out. Like, oh, no one really cares about Kat. But then she never ends up going home. It's like you could probably lose an hour of season 4 if you just cut out all the times when, every 5 minutes per episode that's just about like, are we gonna vote Kat? And they never do. So you could cut out all of that, and then you'd save some time, I guess.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, it's always just like it's the easy option you toss out. It's like the fake plan you toss out, like to
Exactly.
distract from what
Exactly.
you actually want to
It's an
do.
easy thing to say to anybody because except for the thing that's interesting about it is that I think by the time Shannon and Kat became really close, there was a delay between Kat and Shannon becoming close and people like realizing just how close they were, where people are still throwing out Kat's name to Shannon all the time, and it's then pissing Shannon off that they're doing so. But like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
hadn't
yeah, yeah,
become
yeah.
clear, it hadn't become as clear to everybody at that point as it is on the show that Shannon will just never vote out Kat. But Cat's name had thrown out there for so long that I think it was just something that you had to say that. That's just what you say to people. Oh, who do you want
I
out to
remember.
speak?
Yeah,
Cat. Oh, it's just how's the weather? Oh, it's good. Like that's just what you say.
how's the weather? Oh, it's good. Just vote off Cat. It's
Exactly.
funny.
Exactly.
It's funny because I feel like that was a big point in episode 10 as to like why Shannon wanted to turn on Dale. Like I felt like that was almost like a last straw where like they all decided without consulting her, like, oh yeah, we're just gonna vote off Cat this week. And she was just kind of like, I'm not gonna get walked over again. Like, just vote off Dale.
Yeah, she was not having that at all. She's not
Which,
gonna let Cat go home.
exactly. People shit on Shannon for not voting off Dale at Final 7. But she did move the vote off of Cat, which originally was on Cat, who Shannon did not want to
I
get
don't know.
voted
I
off.
honestly think that was a fine move for Shannon, to be honest. I mean, we'll have to see how it works out, but I think
Yeah.
that the fact that Ivy was planning to turn on Shannon next, and Shannon low key read that because it's like, why is Ivy going to Jackson if she's not planning to just flip on Shannon next week? Shannon would
Yeah.
have gotten voted out if she had voted. If Shannon votes out Dale at 7, Shannon goes home at 6. So
I agree. I
I
think there
think it
really
was a
is
good move for
also,
Shannon.
I think so too. And I think that there's something to be said about needing to trust the people you're working with and they're not going to do something unexpected. Like Shannon thought that her and Ivy had an agreement that they were not going to tell Jackson about the plan, and Ivy did it anyways. It's kind of like, how much trust can you have in that alliance that, in the future, Ivy's going to stick by what she says she would do?
Oh yeah, it makes it very difficult to trust her. I completely agree with that. Yeah. So I mean, there's a sense of wanting to work with like rational players as well, and I think Shannon didn't see Ivy telling Jackson as rational. Like it didn't make sense to her,
Yeah.
and that's another reason
Yep.
why she was like, "All right, Ivy, you're done. You're done."
And you're done. You're
But they
done,
go
as
into
the
that a little
Godfather would
bit.
say.
We went into that a little bit, even though we didn't do the previous on Survivor. We kind of did a little bit of like explaining, anyways. Where you have Shannon kind of explaining her rationale in flashback that like on top of like emotionally her not really wanting to vote out Dale, she also didn't think it was smart because she was afraid that she becomes a big target, and yada yada. I think it makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
You should have fucking taken out the Godfather. You had a
You had the
chance, but
chance.
still
Now I
here.
got two idols.
I love the part where he's like, got a cigar, can't smoke it in the house. Wife told me no. I mean, that is unreal. This man bought a cigar. His wife's just like, well, obviously you can't smoke that here. So he's like, all right, well, I'll just drink some hams instead.
He has it just like sticking out of his mouth, like unlit cigar.
Yeah.
He
Just,
has I think he has like his hams. He has like some candy as well, like on the table.
yeah,
Like Dale is
that
celebrating.
that didn't make it into the cup, but he had his favorite candy. His mom had sent him some. It was life, I believe it was some kind of jelly beans, like lifesaver I want to you'll have to ask Dale
Oh,
yourself. It's either lifesaver gummies or like jelly bean gummies or something like that.
I think I thought, yeah, it was like one of the Easter candies, right? It's just
It's
like sometime
something
around
like that. He's like,
Easter.
this is my favorite candy. Like my mom sent it to me. Like I'm gonna celebrate, eat this candy.
I just love it. Like it felt like a total combination of like something that like a middle school kid would do to celebrate on like a weekend, with also like this 30-year-old man with a cigar and a hams. Like
Yeah.
I always love this dichotomy with Dale where he's like a full adult with like a wife, and he's like 28, but he's also like there's this like kid energy to him where he gets really excited about the game and he's like playing this game with college students and he fits in with them. Like he's very high
Yeah,
energy.
he's so
Like
young at heart, like
he
that's
really
what you can
is.
appreciate about him.
I think that really helped him in the game and is so far and has
He
like really
doesn't
helped
come
him.
off as old. Like he has like a
No.
youthful spirit.
It's funny that people called Will Grandpa Will last season, and Will's younger than Dale.
Yeah, but he seems older in terms of how he act. Like Will
Yeah.
acts, I feel like an older-ish person than Dale.
No one called Dale Grandpa Dale. They call him
They
Daddy,
call him
like
Daddy.
Daddy Dale, Swag
Is Will
Daddy.
is Dale Will's son? Like, how does that work out?
Wait, Dale. Yeah, yeah. All right, we have
Yeah,
the Godfather. He has father. He has the father vibes.
exactly,
Will's been
exactly.
lying. Will's first confessional. He's like, I shouldn't lie about my age, right? He actually was lying to all of us. He's actually like 50 years old. Dale's his son.
Yeah.
One of the conspiracies.
Yes, Dale's his son, dude.
Wild. But yeah, Dale. We saw a lot of Dale drinking. He drinks his hams, and then he goes and he's drinking all day during whatever day. There's a day of tribal, day before tribal, something like that.
I will say that it surprised me, like when editing this episode, that I realized that I don't think I've ever seen like someone being hammered actually mess like to completely like screw up a college survivor plan before. And you'd think it would have. Like in college survivor, you'd think that like somebody drunk at some point would do something really dumb. But honestly, besides this and like that one party in season 3 they go to, which really doesn't even I feel like have that big of an impact, like you don't actually see the people being drunk really affecting the game all that much. Maybe like Maggie and Jeremy a little bit. But in general, you would think that for college survivor, these people are like drinking all the time. You'd think that like at some point somebody just lets someone just wrecks their game while drunk. But it hasn't
That's
happened as
true.
of yet.
Honestly, it's impressive. It's impressive. I think that a lot of people do a good job of like separating the game from their social lives and like having kind of like a switch where it's like it's the weekend, you just kind of like turn Survivor off.
Yeah, Survivor's like a
But
job. Like you don't think
yeah,
about it during
yeah.
the weekend.
You're not going to be talking about work, when it's a Saturday night with with
Exactly.
whatever the
You're not talking about
boys.
the work of getting rid of Ivy, breaking the pinkies.
Yeah, Saturdays are for the
Mad Men.
the boys.
The
But
boys.
sure, the Mad Men too.
He's like so annoyed when Matthew he thinks he has Matthew all teed up, and he just like goes up for a high five, and Matthew just completely misses basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He puts his hand up for a high five, and Matthew fist bumps.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And then
what
Matthew
happened.
says, "Oh no, I knew it was a high five." Like I think Matthew said, like, "Yeah, oh I know it's for the boys."
Yeah,
I was trying to say Mad Men.
that is exactly what happens. Dale like doesn't even remember that's the name of their alliance. Like he's like, wait, what? What even is that?
I did love. I think last episode or a couple episodes ago, Dale had this whole bit about like, yeah, Mad Men is supposed to stand for Matt and Dale, but I think it's because this guy's actually mad.
Yeah, yeah. He says it's because the kid is nuts. He don't play this game right. That's what he said. Because he don't play the game right.
It's a -3 move from one numbers guy to another. It's a bad move, brother.
Yeah, the Dale Matthew relationship is comical in parts.
It is. It is. I really think that it's an underrated relationship in this game. I mean, those two have. I mean, we see them shake hands in the first episode. It's like one of the first things you see in episode 1 is these two guys shake hands. They create their Mad Men. They've been in Tokidoki.
They've stuck together ever since.
They have. They had their little moment of drama when Dale voted off Eliza. Matthew's a bit blindsided, but they really have stuck together. And I mean, they're both in the final 5 now.
Yeah,
it's been a fun alliance to watch.
We'll have to see how that shakes out for them.
We will. I mean, it is interesting that we have like Dale and Matthew is like a really tight pair. Shannon and Kat is a tight pair, and then Dale and Shannon.
Does that make Nate the swing vote? The swing vote?
You would assume so, right?
I don't know.
That's the thing.
We'll
I don't know.
Nate.
I am interested to see what Nate does with this game now that Ivy is gone. And I think that this episode, he didn't really get a chance to do anything because they just kind of iced him out of all the strategizing.
Yeah, that was
which I don't think was smart. I don't think that's no final 6. Every vote counts. Every vote
I
counts.
don't think it's smart at all. They're all literally just like, well, we're gonna just pretend Nate isn't in the game, basically. And it's like, well, A, that isn't smart, but B, what if you like need Nate for the future votes? Like, none of you are thinking about the fact that this is a guy who's a completely free, he's a free agent, and nobody wants to
Yeah.
pick him up. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. And like that, he's also going to be on the jury. If you're going to vote him off, he's either going to be in the finals or he's going to be on the jury. And if he's on the jury, you want him to like you, and he's not going to like you if you just ice him out. So I honestly don't understand. I remember Matthew had a confessional that I somewhat understand what he was saying, where he was like, Nate is going to mess up any plan that we tell him. So might as well not tell him anything because he'll just like try to cause chaos.
Kind of,
And
but if
even
you're
Nate
all,
had a confessional like that.
but if you're all now planning to go against each other anyways, then it's like, what do you like? What that doesn't even really make. I don't know. I sort of get that, but it's also like Nate also doesn't have a huge. What incentive does he really have to blow up the plans if he's going to need allies next week? Like he has
Yeah,
just
he
as
doesn't
much of
have
an
incentive.
he has just as much of an incentive to stick with somebody so that he has somebody, you know?
Yeah, I think that again, like it's a matter of not having all the information. Because if I'm Jackson, maybe he feels like this is a delicate time in the game. There's idols floating around. He doesn't want to jeopardize himself by telling Nate the plan and risking it leaking around. But if he had, that would have probably saved his life if he had,
Maybe.
told Nate the vote and stole someone else's vote instead. In his mind, he doesn't need Nate's number, and he didn't really even see it coming that Dale and Matthew would turn on him. But I feel like it'd be a good insurance policy at least.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's you want to know where every vote is going at Final Six. Like
Don't even worry about voting. You can vote for me if you want to.
Nate's happy. He's like, I didn't know who to vote for, so this is great. This is
That
great for
one,
me.
it was like peak villain Jackson was him telling Nate like your vote doesn't matter. Like it literally doesn't matter. Vote for me.
Just
I don't
vote for
care.
me. Saying to him, vote for me. I mean, that is iconic. Like the fact that he literally says, Nate, you can vote for me. I don't
You can
care.
vote for me.
Like is honestly an unreal line. Even if he knew for a fact Nate wasn't gonna be able to vote, it's still just genuinely hilarious that he said that.
It's so great. I've only heard that said twice in Survivor Michigan. Well, the first time by Maggie and the second time by Jackson in this episode.
When did Maggie say that?
The episode would be where Jeremy went home. Maggie told us, "Oh, you know what you should do is you should split votes on me and Jeremy, and you guys should vote for me." And that's what ended up happening. We didn't personally vote for her, but it did happen. It was a split on those two, and she suggested it.
That is comical. That is truly ludicrous. But
It's something with Survivor Michigan legends and telling people to vote for them. It's just a thing at this point.
Sarah
I think
Avery did
Jackson
it.
is.
Sarah Avery did it too, right?
She did. Yeah, she did. Yeah, yeah. Yep. AJ, he wanted to get voted off. Try to vote for himself. So we really are listing some of the top people in the whole
Oh
series.
yeah,
right
some
now.
of the top tier some of the best strategists in all of Survivor Michigan right here.
Oh, definitely.
Could you try?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, after Dale kind of drunkenly tells Matthew about his idols, he has this really, really emotional, this crazy meeting with Shannon. This was like one of the craziest meetings I've seen.
This meeting was about like an hour and a half long. And honestly, you could have put the entire meeting is entertaining. Like we could have put the entire thing in the episode. It's so interesting. It's so raw. Like it's probably one of the most honest conversations I've ever seen between two people in college or regular or any version of Survivor. Like they're both literally just laying it all completely out there. Like Shannon being like, I basically telling him she doesn't want to take him to the end, and Dale basically saying, well, you shouldn't take me to the end because I'll win. Like you don't see that kind of stuff there. Dale's obviously drunk, but I also just think it shows kind of like the depth of their genuine relationship at this point where they're like beyond the game a little bit. They're just literally just laying it all on the table and being completely honest with each other about everything, which you really rarely see something to that level. So I think that definitely came across in the episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was just such riveting television to watch. I mean, the whole thing was just crazy. And you really do get the vibe that like Dale is starting to think that like if I take out Shannon, then I'm getting rid. It's Dale's in a tough spot here where he doesn't really think that either Jackson or Shannon want to take him to the end, and Jackson is straight up lying, saying no, I'm definitely taking you to the final. I'm not going to go with Nate and Kat. Like obviously not. Or
Something
Shannon's
I
just like
can
being honest.
something I considered doing that I didn't end up doing because it broke up the flow too much. But I tried a version where when Dale says to her, Dale says, "You're the only person who's telling me that they won't take me to the end." And Shannon says, "Well, that's because I'm being honest with you." I considered cutting to both Matthew and Jackson, who earlier in the episode both of them said, I'm not taking Dale to the end." But they're both telling Dale they will. So it's a very interesting dichotomy where it's like Dale's considering voting out Shannon, who's the one person telling him the truth that she doesn't want to take him to the end, versus like Matthew and Jackson are both just lying to Dale, telling him they'll take him when they have no intention of taking him either. So it's like Dale
Yeah,
is in a pretty bad spot where it's not like any of them really want to take him, you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's goes back to what we talked about earlier. Dale wants to win the Final Four challenge. That's what he's basing his game on. And when we look at it that way, I think it makes sense why he chooses to get rid of Jackson over Shannon right here.
Yeah, I think that's ultimately what his choice probably comes down to is, Jackson's just more likely to win the challenge against me. So at that point, really, it's all that matters is who can win that challenge.
And beyond that, I mean, I do think there's something to be said about his relationship with Shannon and the fact that he does like Shannon a lot. I mean, I think that it's clear that Shannon has a very hard time voting off Dale. In the last episode, there was emotion involved with that. And I feel like Dale for the same reasons, like, I mean, I guess I'm not entirely sure whether that played a part in his decision as well, but it seems like he names it. He says, "Oh, the hero move would be taking out Jackson. The villain move would be taking out Shannon." Like, I think he kind of knows that this is like a villainous thing for him to do.
Well, she just saved him the previous week, and so I think there is an aspect of it where it's like, does he really want to play that I feel like Dale is a schemer, but up to this point, he hasn't played like a dirty game, Like he hasn't really stabbed anybody really in the back. Like you could say he stabbed Katie in the back, maybe, but realistically, like him and Katie worked together for what, like 2 weeks? Compared to like Shannon, they've been working together since the very beginning. It's a much dirtier play,
And even then, he didn't really want to get rid of Katie. I mean, I think that he didn't. I don't think he wanted to do that at all. Like, it was definitely not his choice, like his first choice. Like, he did it kind of more.
Yeah, he didn't like come up with the idea to do it, or like.
Yeah. Well, and then him and Jackson even debated, what if we save Katie?
Yeah, he tried to pitch that to Jackson a little bit. Like, he clearly sort of did want to save her.
Yeah. So I think it's
interesting.
I think
interesting.
It seems like a lot of the audience has been viewing Dale as kind of like this, Boston Rob type, like mob boss character. But I feel like Dale, he has had that kind of control thus far into the game, but he hasn't been as, I don't think, outwardly villainous in his actual move. I guess Aliza is probably the main, most villainous move. But even then, I mean, Aliza had alliances without Dale in it.
Yeah, I mean, Aliza wasn't really planning to stick with them. Like,
she wasn't loyal to him, and he knew it.
It's more like him and Jackson just like sniping her in the bud before she could turn on them. Like, she was gonna turn on them. Like,
at the merge, she was totally planning on doing it. She mentioned it many times.
Yeah.
So that was the correct decision for them to make.
Even though it's a villainous move from the audience perspective, because obviously the audience and everybody loves Aliza, as do we. It's like, from their perspective, I don't really think that's a super villain move. I don't think him and Aliza were like the tightest of allies,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, earlier in the episode, she had been caught like lying to his face, and he brought it up to her. So,
right.
Yep.
So what do you make of the other emotional conversation between Kat and Shannon, who at the beginning of the game, if I had told you episode 1 when Shannon goes in this long monologue just basically trashing on Kat, then now we'd be in the position where she's crying, saying how happy she is she met Kat, and how she wants Kat to win the game if she gets voted out and all this stuff.
It's wild. Honestly, wild. Like, one of the best arcs, I think, in the whole not just in the whole season, like maybe even the whole entire series. Like, the way that Shannon and Kat have evolve from then to now is it's just crazy to watch. It's such good TV.
Yeah, I feel like the Shannon Cat storyline has to be one of the best storylines in the whole franchise of Survivor Michigan, honestly. In terms of just like pure character development of like they started here and now they're there. Like you don't that's it's gotta be one of the better overarching storylines of the whole thing.
Yeah,
It's like a
I really
reverse, it's like a more wholesome version of Ben and Will, where it's like they start as friends
yeah
and they end in this like horrible like showdown. This is like these guys started as like Shannon just absolutely disliking Kat, and now you have them like crying and being like, super buddy buddy.
yeah. And Shannon's like, wow, I was so mean to Kat at the beginning of the game, and now like I
She's
really
the only
appreciate
person
her.
I can trust.
Yeah, that's just crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And I think it is cool that they were able to like grow into that too, because it does make sense how like they're both like I think she said we're both sophomores. We both like Shane's like we both like talking about ourselves. Like it is funny that the longer you see them like together, the more you realize like they're very different, but they have like a similar like vibe to their personality, where you can see why they get along.
Yeah, you can definitely see that you can definitely
They're
see how
both
they would just
tough.
get along like outside of Survivor. They could just like
Yeah,
vibe basically and crack jokes. Um,
definitely.
Yeah. So it's a very wholesome relationship. It's a very heartwarming scene.
It
And
was.
in Survivor, you don't often get a lot of like heartwarming scenes because most of the time it's people getting voted out and like honestly just like bad stuff happening to people. So this is an opportunity to give like a genuinely nice emotional moment between two people where it's like outside of this game, these two people this storyline is just about two people becoming friends, which anyone can
Yeah.
appreciate. That's just everyone can relate to that and appreciate that, I think.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's why everyone loved it so much, and like, I think a lot of people were calling this episode like one of the best episodes they've seen, and I feel like that definitely contributes to it. Just the amount of character moments you see out of Shannon, Dale, Matthew, and Kat and Jackson. Like, I feel like these characters they all have such distinct personalities, and their relationships are just so interesting. Like all of them have really interesting relationships with each other, which I think is so cool.
Yeah, they all also everybody who's left in this season has very good screen presence, Like
Oh,
there's no
definitely.
one's confessionals that you're like, oh, now I gotta listen to this person talk. Like
Yeah.
everybody has like really interesting stuff to say and kind of like pops and like has funny lines and can really like command the screen and has good stage presence, which
Oh, absolutely.
I think this final six, like in terms of pure characters, is up there, if not better than any other final six in Survivor Michigan. Like there's no
Oh,
duds.
absolutely.
There's not a single dud in this final six.
No, not a single dud. Not a single dud. Like these are all like characters that I think could I think that like the audience would like easily want to see just about all these characters back on another season. Just like
Oh
the
yeah.
whole final six is just like every single person. There's something to love.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
you get to tribal though, and one of them's got to go.
Yeah, and again, I think as a villain downfall, what's better than this for Jackson? I mean, he gets his
So good.
long sequence where he goes over his whole plan and he talks to everybody. He's making sure everything's going right, and he's just dominating this fucking game. Like just another move he's pulled off because I'm just dominating this game, and then he just gets blindsided and
Yeah.
plays a steal a vote and gets blindsided. I mean, that's what a way to go out. What better way to go out for the slithery snake, the skinty little boy, the sandworm himself,
Coin
Jackson,
flip boy himself.
coin flip boy, the
Six and
mysterious.
six, Mr. 6 and 6 in challenges.
Yes, the mysterious skinty little boy, Jackson.
That was one of the best
I don't even know what that
descriptions.
means. Like,
I
what
don't
does that
know.
mean? The mysterious skinty little boy. Like, what does that mean?
A skinty, is
What
that the
is
word?
skinty? I'm literally looking it up right now.
Yeah, I is it a made up word? Is it real?
I don't even think it's a real word, dude.
It's a Urban Dictionary.
The Urban Dictionary
What is it?
definition doesn't make any sense for Jackson because the Urban Dictionary is the act of acting
Real.
skinny but being morbidly obese.
That doesn't make sense. I don't know. I just think that like Dale thought it was a funny word that would like
It
fit well.
is. It is funny. It is funny. It just doesn't make any sense. And what's mysterious about Jackson? Like, is he? I wouldn't describe him as a super like mysterious figure, but the
No.
description is
Well,
the mysterious skinty little boy.
One of the things
Jackson.
that I think Katie said in her interview was that Jackson in confessionals was like night and day different than like during the game, how he would act in conversations.
Oh,
So
really?
maybe there's like a part of it where it's like you maybe, and I bet Dale saw more of
Because I
the
feel like
confessional
Jackson was
Jackson.
pretty. He was pretty Jackson with like Megan at least.
Yeah, maybe he shows it to certain people and not to other people.
Yeah, maybe Katie like didn't really get. Maybe he didn't give Katie the full on like Jackson, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Versus
yeah,
like
yeah.
it seems like some people he kind of gave him a bit of the Jackson, you know.
I think that was maybe people he knew he was going to want to vote off anyways.
Oh
I know that one
yeah,
of the things he said was that for Megan, the week that she went home, he purposefully acted like an asshole. That way, she would tell Matthew the plan and not be
right.
loyal to him.
But it like didn't
And
work
it
basically.
didn't work. She's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be the worst version of Jackson possible." So Megan does not go with my plan, and she still went with his plan.
Yeah. Classic,
But
classic.
going to tribal, my one of my favorite moments from the whole season. I don't know why this like left such an impression on me, but it's one of the things that like Jack and Sarah, especially Jack and I, have like been saying for years, ever since this moment, is like Jackson's line about like, Nate, don't even worry about voting. I'll take that vote and I'll just vote twice and don't even worry about it. Don't even worry.
It's so funny. It's just so funny it's so funny the way he says it. Like he's just like, you don't even need to worry about voting. And it's hilarious because Nate's also like, great. Like I was worried about it. Like
I know.
he's like, oh great. I had no idea what to do. This is amazing.
It's so funny. It's such a great downfall. Like it reminds me a little bit of like Kevin's downfall in season 2, but only like an even bigger like version of it almost.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a great downfall. It's the kind of downfall you want to see for a character like Jackson. Like you want to
Yep.
see him go out in some kind of huge blaze of glory, you know.
Yep.
It's a little similar to like Jackson plays his steal a vote, gets voted out. Kevin plays his fake idol, doesn't play a real idol, gets voted
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little similar to that. It'd be more like if Kevin like played his idol like for Bailey and got voted out or something like that,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Like waste the advantage.
which would be pretty embarrassing.
And also, some of these voting confessionals were so savage.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think if you're voting out Jackson, you got to kind of bring the heat a little bit, you know. But
Yeah.
Shannon, because he's like, I hope you love the jury as much as you love yourself. Honestly, an incredible line.
Oh,
An
that's such a good
incredible
line.
line. That could have been like the title of the episode. I feel like if it wasn't like a spoiler, you know, like I feel
Literally.
like you
Yeah.
would just know if you read that Jackson's getting voted out based on that. Because who else would she be talking about?
True.
But
Matthews
yeah,
is a good too, where he's like, leave the playing. He says like leave the playing to the good players, and by good players I mean Dale.
he's like, leave the big moves to the good players, and I
That's
mean
what it was.
Dale, not me. I love that storyline from Matthew in this episode where he's like accepting that he's not a good, like he's saying to his girlfriend in that scene.
Oh
It's a great
yeah, yeah,
scene.
yeah, yeah.
He's like, "Oh, why would anyone hate me? You know, I haven't done anything." She's like, "Yeah, that's why they'll hate you because you haven't done anything."
I think that I love like this self-aware Matthew, where he's like
Yeah,
kind of like a little bit self-deprecating, like, yeah, he's great. Like, I'm glad that Matthew's still here, and because I feel like you can kind of tell that he's so excited every single week to still be in the game. He's like, whoo, like final 6 now, final whatever,
he
final
just
7.
loves the game. He loves
Yeah.
like he doesn't even like yeah he loves the game in the sense of just he just loves being in it. You know?
Yes, yes. He loves playing the game and just like being in the game and like having
Yeah.
the days pass and all the stats. Like,
Yes, he loves the stats. He loves the
yeah,
stats.
yeah. So Matthew lives to see another day, and I love this like this self aware like Matthew, where it's like I think he even said earlier like my strategy is going to be playing bad on purpose and make it to the end that way.
Hey,
And
it's working so far.
still in it. He's in the finale.
We'll have to see if it works out for him, but he's in it right now.
Exactly. Well, one of the people that is not in it right now is our good friend Jackson. Do you want to see what Jackson has to say about all this?
Sure, sure.
All right,
Let's bring him
let's
on.
bring him on. And whoa, what's up, Jackson?
Whoa, Sam, it's been so long. How you been?
I've been good, buddy. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Hanging in there.
Hanging in there. What you been up to last few years?
I sadly graduated and then somehow tricked the state of New York into, licensing me as an attorney, and been working ever since.
There you go. The classic trick is there you go. Just play, you do work some survivor skills on them, get kind of get in their heads about it, and just get whatever you need to get.
It's kind of like the TV show Suits. I actually never went to law school. I just pretended to be a student so that I could play Survivor Michigan, and then went to New York and pretended I was at law school. And I used Survivor Michigan as like a way to show them that I was totally in school at Michigan. And yeah, they bought it.
That's perfect. I mean, you gave off so much lawyer vibes during your time at Survivor Michigan. They were just like, this man to be a perfect lawyer.
Yep, it's true. I think of Survivor Michigan as really just a video resume. I think I'll probably just send them the YouTube link to all prospective employers in the future. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely showing the best side of yourself. If I was an employer, I would definitely want to see all of this.
For sure. You would definitely hire me.
Oh, 100%.
100%. Not even a second. You watch first episode, first confessional from Jackson. It's just like this man knows what it takes to take other people down and get, as a lawyer, you're going to get your way. It's this.
You got to do what you got to do to get the job done. Yeah.
Absolutely. But, yeah, no, seriously, really great to have you on, Jackson. I mean, seriously, it's just been so fun to watch you play this season. I mean, I remember some of your confessionals from back then, but like rewatching them and like seeing the season, it's just like so much comedy gold the whole entire time.
I appreciate you saying that. Happy to be here. I tried to do my best to be funny on camera occasionally.
Something else I'd like to give you some credit for actually is you made the narration. We're always looking for narrators in the editing, and there was multiple scenes, in particular the meeting of Tokidoki before the swap happened, when you guys were like debating who to send and stuff. You always had a very clear, very concise way of explaining things with just a little bit of humor added to it that always made it, really good. Because sometimes if you get boring narration, the episodes can kind of drag on and on with these monotones. But you had a very good way of explaining things, so I appreciated that.
Glad I could help you out, Ian, and do what I can.
Yeah, one of the things that you narrated really well was your thoughts about Adam and his cool mint bitch alliance. So tell us about that. Did you ever seriously consider like that being a real alliance, like in working with Adam?
No, never. Just because, I mean, from before we even met, that was just a terrible job by Adam, basically, because the way he orchestrated this meeting made absolutely no sense if you know anything about Survivor. Because he just texted me being like, hey, do you want to meet up? This was going to be the first time I was going to meet with him. I, of course, say yes. Then he texts me back and says, is it okay if I bring Eliza along? I'm like, that's weird. Usually you'd want to meet with someone one-on-one first and develop like your own relationship before you bring someone else. But whatever, that's fine, Adam. And then I get there and Kat is randomly there. And I don't know if Kat's like there for the meeting or if she just happens to be at the place where we're meeting at the same time, coincidentally. But she waves at me like she knows that I was coming. So I'm like, I guess Kat's in on this. And then there's just this kind of weird group of 4 people that don't have any, real common thread between them. And Adam just kind of goes into it and is like, so, guys, you're the chosen ones, this 4. And part of me was torn between thinking like, maybe he's lying because this seems like a weird group. We haven't developed any relationship, any trust. So maybe this is like some ruse by him to make us feel comfortable. But no, it was true. This is what he wanted. He wanted that to be a real alliance. It just made no sense. It was terrible gameplay. The meeting went on forever. Kat showed the video that went on forever. It wasn't funny. But luckily, I at least could tell Eliza was on the same page with me, that meeting was like just so brutal. And that Kat talked so long. Like the episodes can only be an hour. So I feel like the viewers have been spared a bit of like how brutal it could be to be in a group conversation with Kat, because it was just her talking about ROTC. And I didn't even know what ROTC was for a long time. She just kept saying ROTC this and ROTC that. And I thought it was like the thing with the flags, like color guard, I think, for a long time. I eventually discovered ROTC was ROTC. after
That's
like
funny.
16 hours of her talking about it. So Cool Mitch was doomed from before it even began, really.
Man, you hate to see that, but there is one positive out of this. A beautiful friendship blossomed between you and Kat over many, many months of the game, and who would have known that you two would grow from kind of hating each other to by the final six. You and Kat had that really emotional meeting right before tribal. And maybe that was Shannon. I don't know, but the two of
We
you,
met up in
you blossomed into such a good friendship with Kat.
in the girls' bathroom right before tribal. Yeah, me and Kat,
Yeah, that's right.
for sure.
Yeah.
Honestly, huge tactical mistake to like not have a relationship with Kat, because it's basically having an extra vote if you are the one that like talks to Kat, which is a big advantage for the one person, Shannon, that did do that. But I was willing to do a lot for the game, but I wasn't willing to repeatedly talk to Kat, I guess.
Yeah, that's where you draw the line. You got to
it.
draw the line somewhere.
Yeah. Hours outside in the
you
cold
did
looking
have
for idols that were gone, but completely fine. But like 30 minutes talking to Kat, unreasonable. Can't do it.
I think I mean you mentioned like Kat being kind of like an extra vote for Shannon. Like it seemed like I know some people in the audience were kind of ripping on you a little bit for like, oh wow, Megan could have been this extra vote for you. Like what was the deal with Megan? What was your perspective on the Megan relationship during the game?
I don't think Megan would have ever been an extra vote for me like Kat would have been an extra vote for Shannon. Kat, to the point where I was in the game, everything I'm saying is as of final six. Nothing is past that. To the point where I made it, Kat had not shown anything, any game-wise ability, hadn't played the game, basically. Whereas Megan, I mean, as we saw, was playing the game. She was thinking for herself, what's best for me. She wasn't just playing for someone else. And she definitely wasn't going to play just for me, even if she did decide to play for someone else. I think she would have played for many other people before she chose to play for me. And also, I would have had to cut her off at a certain point anyways, because she would smoke me at Final Tribal. And I told her that, which I probably shouldn't have. But I told her I can't take you to the end because you beat me, which she would have. But, that's a hard thing to take back.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that is interesting to think that, like, I seemed like a lot of you guys were kind of worried about, like, the El Nortes being jury threats. Like, I feel like you guys said the same thing about Katie because you're like, oh, if Katie gets to the end, she'll get all the votes. If Megan gets to the end, she'll get all the votes. You guys were saying the same thing about Jack. I feel like even some things about Nate have been spoken about that. Like, it is interesting how, like, you guys were kind of using El Norte a little bit, but then you're also, like, a little bit scared of them getting too far.
Yeah, well, so you look at like the tribal reaction, the jury reaction to when he voted out Ivy, for example. Like they were all cheering really happily because it's like Tokidoki was finally gone. So there was always this fear that like maybe they're still going to be like, oh, rah rah El Norte. I personally was never like afraid to go against Nate at the end, for example, but some people were. And there's also you're always trying to paint other people as jury threats because that just puts them like as someone to go before you. So basically every conversation I had in the beginning of the game, I talked about how if any returnee made it to the end, like they would automatically win. If Dale made it to the end, he would win. Then after the merge, yeah, all the El Norte people, they're all going to vote El Norte. All you're doing is just trying to decrease your own threat level and increase theirs. But then it sort of becomes a little wishy-washy what's like something you're just saying versus what's actually true. Because if you say something enough times and everyone else hears it and they start repeating it, does it eventually become true? So yeah, I think there were some real fears that El Norte people would be big jury threats, but not huge.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, everyone remembers the challenge at Final 10, I believe, the first merge challenge. You guys are all standing there on the things. So, how did you feel about when you were eliminated from that challenge? You were disqualified for supposedly your leg hitting the wall.
So my leg did hit the wall. I will not say that it didn't hit the wall.
Interesting. Because for the record, in the footage I have reviewed, I believe this to perhaps have been a mistake. I could find no footage of the leg hitting the wall, which is why I didn't include it. And like I included someone saying it hit the wall, but there was like a video called Close Up of Jackson's leg hitting the wall, and in that close up, it didn't hit the wall. So I was like, if it did hit the wall, it must have been in a different spot than this video was taken in. And could this have changed the entire course of the game if this was a misrefereeing? I was not
Well,
sure.
So for one thing, I don't think it changes the course of the game at all because I didn't go home at final 10. Everything was fine. And two, my leg definitely did hit the wall.
All right.
Because I remember like I hit it and I like turned and I was like, does that count? So yeah, I mean, I deserved to lose. If you count all these like rule iterations that you guys kept stacking on because you guys were tired and wanted to go home because the challenge was taking too long. If it had been like you're allowed to be on the wall and stuff, it would have gone for hours and hours. But by the rules that we added on, I did get eliminated fairly.
I suppose that just is on the whoever was filming that then did a very poor job of portraying it.
Yeah, and mislabeling the video.
Yeah, it literally said Jackson's leg hits wall, and I watched it and I was like, nothing happens in this video. Where is the hitting of the wall?
I don't know what to tell you. It definitely hit it at some point late at night in very cold weather.
Good to know. Good to know. I was wondering if that was a controversial point, perhaps, on your end, because I know there was some controversial challenges this season for sure.
There were some that people got mad at. People did not like the trivia one.
Yeah.
Like, how well do you know your tribe mates? I wasn't that mad about it, but some people were very mad about it. And I tried to stoke the fire a little bit on that one. It's just good for a tribe to have a common enemy. And even if that common enemy is production, I think it still helps you bond. So I tried to fan the flames there.
It's always good. Sorry. Production's an easy enemy to go after, you know? It's the true. Evil hegemony
can't
of
fight
production.
Back.
Yeah.
I loved it is kind of funny you mentioned that because I remember after losing that challenge, I feel like you were kind of happy. You're like, oh, now the game starts. We get to vote someone off. After Adam went, you're like, wow, that was so great. Like I was trying to hide my smile.
Yeah, I mean, you think about playing Survivor for so long, you finally get cast on a fan-made game, and then there's 2 weeks where like you win the challenges, and this isn't like a real CBS Survivor where you're on an island and you get to still talk and interact and all this stuff. Like you guys, if you don't have tribal council, like, you really have to go out of your way to meet up and talk to people, and you don't have that much to talk with them about because you don't have a vote in your immediate future. So like you can sort of reach out to people, but you also don't want to seem like you're overly strategic or overly into the game that early on. So I just felt like I had to hold back so much until we finally lost a challenge. And so, yeah, I was pretty happy to finally get the game going and get to vote someone out.
Yeah, then you're also very happy after Elisa's blindside.
That was great. Yeah, like I was so upset when we lost that challenge, but then it worked out perfectly fine voting out Elisa. And I didn't even know she had an idol. Now knowing she had an idol, it makes it even better. And also, like, for the course of my game, like I didn't win obviously, but I think if Elisa stays in and we go to merge, I'd probably get out before 6 because Elisa didn't want to work with me. And I knew that. And Elisa had so many relationships that she could have her way whenever she wanted, basically.
Yeah, Lisa was basically saying that, like, if she had made it to the merge, she fully planned on like joining up with like Jack and Megan, El Norte, and probably bringing, you know, the girls with her, like Shannon, Kat, and Ivy. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, and she had the idol. Like, I really feel like that move was so huge for you and Dale because if Elisa had made it to the merge, like, I think that they would have probably went after you or Dale, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Dale and I could have been 10 and 9 in some order for sure if Elisa had stayed in the game. But she didn't hide it that well that she wasn't really all that with us. Like Dale and I could both sort of tell, like, she's not really all that with us. I was open to working with anyone. It was all just about how I thought they felt about me. And Elisa was one of those people that, like, I tried to lay it out how, like, we're both sort of similar. Like, we can use Matt and Dale as our shields. We can be behind them, actually pulling the strings, get rid of them when we need to. Like, we can run this game together. And I could tell she wasn't feeling it. So if she doesn't want to work with me, why would I keep her in the game, basically?
Yeah, I was really curious, like, what you meant, because I think at Tribal, when you voted for her, you said something like, you know, me and you play the same game. Like, is that kind of what you meant, that, like, you guys are both using, you know, Dale and Matthew as shields?
Yeah, because that was her plan. That was my plan, was to just lower your threat level, but still be aligned with the biggest threats. And then either when the game turns on the threats, you won't go, the person, your shield will go. Or if you get far enough, you can be the one to decide to turn on your shield. So that's what both of us wanted to do. Granted, didn't work for Lisa because we took her out, and didn't work for me because my shields somehow turned on me. In my mind, there was no way I was going before Dale or Matt. It wasn't going to happen, because any reason to vote for me like would apply more strongly to them was the logic.
I have a question. How much of a threat did you guys view Matthew as? Or did that like evolve throughout? Because I think there's an interesting disconnect between like how you guys viewed Matthew in your confessionals, how he was discussed in the game, and how like the audience views him. Like I feel like it's one of the bigger disconnects, you know, like he's still being talked about as a threat a lot, but then most of the confessionals are people kind of like dunking on him. So how much did you really view him as a threat, you know, down the stretch?
So it evolved a lot. First, coming into the game, all the returnees are huge threats. Then we hear some about the games they played, like Ben dropping the Ben bomb. Whoa, that's crazy. Jack finding idols. Whoa, we watch Matt, and he's like clearly very into the game, thinking a lot, writing notes, all this stuff. So Matt has a big threat level in the beginning as a returnee and as someone that's into the game, and as just like a larger male who we for some reason view as threats in a game that like doesn't really matter your size or your gender, but for some reason we do view bigger males as threats. So he had a huge threat level in the beginning, and then it sort of comes out that he's working in concert with the other returnees, and that like seems to make him seem more threatening. He runs and gets an idol clue at Final 10. I'm like, whoa, does he have an idol? That could be dangerous. But then as the game goes on, he sort of just gets left out of the loop a lot, is totally in the dark, doesn't know what's going on. It becomes clear he doesn't have these relationships, but it still benefits all of us to talk about him like he's a threat, because it's the same thing about having a common enemy, having someone that we can all agree needs to go because they're a threat. And the whole time I had wanted Matt to be viewed as a threat because then he could be my shield. So I was still pushing the narrative that like Matt's a huge threat, he's a shield, he's got to go. If he gets to the end, he'll win, blah, blah, blah. But it did become pretty apparent that he was not the biggest jury threat to me, at least at the time. I can't say whether it was that way to everyone, and I still totally talked about him like he was a huge threat, and he's a returnee, he's the last returnee. If he makes it to the end, he'll win. But I don't think he was actually viewed by me as that big a threat. I can't speak for other people, although everyone dunked on him in their confessional, so maybe no one did.
Yeah. It's funny because, I feel like there were so many weeks where Matthew was just completely left out of the vote and or told about the vote at the last second. I remember Dale telling me once like a funny story about, I think it's the tribal that Ivy went home, how you guys both like took Matthew's side like right before. It had this big story, and like Dale's phone. He had to turn his phone off because Shannon was texting him or something. Like, do you know what that whole thing was? I don't remember exactly what he said.
So I remember more than you, but not entirely, because it is convoluted. Basically, so Final 7, we all know what happens. Like Shannon and Ivy meet, and they're like, yeah, let's do Dale. Ivy comes to me, tells me Dale. I'm like, I don't want to do Dale. So I talk with Shannon. I'm like, let's not do Dale. And so we decide it's not going to be Dale. Days before Tribal Council, like two days before. But we're like, let's not tell Matt. We can't trust Matt. He's going to do something stupid. He had just flipped his vote the prior week from Megan to Katie. Or I guess that was Final 9. So 2 weeks ago, we were like, Matt's going to do some dumb shit if we loop him in right now. Let's wait till like right before Tribal and then tell him what's going on. So we went over to Matt's like an hour before Tribal, and Shannon called him and told him that Ivy talked to her and that Ivy wanted to vote out Dale. And he was like, what? No way. Ivy wants to vote Dale. And he and Shannon were like, what do we do? Then Shannon was like, I think we got to vote Ivy. And Matt's like, yeah, let's vote Ivy. Will you call Dale and see if he's in? I'll talk to Jackson and see if he's down. And Shannon's like, yeah, I'll call Dale. But Dale is right next to Matt in Matt's apartment. But Shannon didn't know that Dale and I were at Matt's with Matt, because we didn't want Shannon to know that like the three guys were close and all together meeting up. So Shannon was going to call Dale, but Dale couldn't actually answer the phone because he's right next to Matt, and Shannon would just be like, okay, I told Matt the lie. So Dale has to turn his phone off. And so he does. And then Shannon texts Matt and's like, all right, I talked to Dale. He's good. When Dale had been right next to Matt the whole time and had been like, sorry, my phone's dead. I guess she can't talk to me. And he's like, why would Shannon say she talked to you if she hadn't talked to you? What's going on? Why would that be the case? And we were like, I don't know. That's really weird. And so it's just this whole mess that like was kind of for no reason other than the fact that we just didn't want Matt to have information for a while because he would sit on it and do something stupid. And so like that's why it wasn't really shown in the edit, and because it doesn't really make any sense. Like that story probably you barely followed because there's no real logic to it, and it's weird, but it was really funny in the moment. And Matt was so confused. Matt was so lost about what was going on.
There's definitely a lot of like you guys, especially you and Dale, have like some really crazy levels of convoluted like lies you're telling to certain people about certain votes when the vote itself is like really simple. And so a lot of that just like doesn't make it into the episode because it's like the depths of what we're lying to Nate about just like doesn't really matter. Like the different lies being told to Nate versus Megan versus so on, when the truth is just no one is being kept in the loop. And like we just go to time to get into just how little Nate understands what's happening in the game, or Matthew, for example.
That's another one. Nate was lied to by literally like every single one of us in a different way at every single tribal. He had no idea what was going on, and every week we would meet with him, and he'd be like, "You just gonna lie to me again?" It's like, no, this week is the week, Nate.
The biggest amount of like wasted footage on the season, or wasted in terms of like most unusable, is just people's meetings with Nate. Just like period. Like every week, there's like hours of meetings with Nate where it's just like complete lies. Nothing useful is addressed. Nothing useful is discussed. And it's just like this footage just taking up space on my hard drive, accomplishing very little.
Yeah, poor Nate. He was trying, you know. He still reached out to like all of us. We would have meetings every week, and we just kept lying to him. But I guess Ivy was telling him the truth. I don't know how much Ivy clued him in on, but
it's not clear. It's not even clear to me, to be honest with you, how much she clued him in on.
Yeah.
Hey, you were definitely telling Nate the truth when you told him that his vote doesn't matter and that he could even vote for you.
Yeah, I mean, I should have just not answered his call, I think. Like, what do you say to someone when you don't want to tell them any information because it could backfire and they have no vote? Like, I have nothing to gain in my mind by telling him anything. It's like all he can do is go tell someone that he can't vote with me. He doesn't have a vote. But maybe
that was definitely tough, like, because you didn't really know where Dale and Shannon were at that vote, because like that's one thing Ian and I were talking about, like what if you had instead stolen Shannon's vote or something.
What happens if have you thought about like what happens if you steal Shannon's vote and let's say for the sake of argument Nate votes with you against Shannon and it's like a tie and now you and Nate are immune, so like you guys have no reason to change your votes? Like what happens there? I feel like that's a really interesting scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously played it out because
okay. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Shannon apparently did tell Nate that it was me before that tribal, but I think Nate partially was like, I don't know if that's even true, and other part was like, okay, fine, Jackson's gonna go. I don't really care. He's lied to me every time. So maybe I should have been nicer to Nate. One thing, but so say Nate does come to me, and I do believe Nate that these people are not with me. Even though I was very confident going to this tribal. I didn't think anything was up at all. So, but say I believe that, then yeah, Nate and I vote together and I steal. I know about Dale's idol though. So I do have to worry about Dale playing an idol on whomever we're voting for. So I'm for sure not going to vote for Dale because I think Dale more than likely will play an idol on himself. But if I were to steal Shannon's vote, I could see Dale playing an idol for Shannon. I could see him playing an idol for Matt. But I figure there's zero chance that he plays an idol for Kat. So I would actually steal Shannon's vote or steal Dale's vote, doesn't matter, and vote for Kat with Nate. And I can feel pretty confident that Nate will vote Kat because Nate hates Kat.
That's
so
interesting.
Then it's 3 on Kat, 3 on me. And then on the revote, I would still have my stolen vote because I didn't steal Kat's vote. So Kat still has a vote. So if we were to revote, it would be 2-2. So Nate and I can tell the rest of them, look, we're not switching our votes. Nate's immune. And I will be immune on the rock draw. We have no reason to flip. So a player like Matt or Dale, like either both of them, honestly, would agree to flip onto Kat, and Kat would get voted out.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's not a chance that they go to rocks for Kat at final six.
Zero chance they go to rocks for Kat. So Kat's gone.
They don't go to rocks for Kat.
But then
they would be like, it would be like if Dale plays an idol on himself, it would be. What it would be Matthew and Shannon drawing rocks. Like Matthew's not going to rocks for Kat.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so he's for sure flipping. There's no reason for him not to flip.
Yeah.
Like,
that would be an interesting scenario.
I know. I wish it had happened, man.
Would have
Yeah.
been great TV.
Yeah. What would you say is your biggest regret, like, in the game?
Yeah. Do you think that it's at Final Six, or do you think it's earlier than that?
I don't think it's a Final Six because I think at Final Six, with the information I had, it was actually a good like plan and move. And I think I stand by that. Seeing Dale's voting confessional, he's like, if I didn't have 2 idols, I wouldn't be doing this. I didn't know he had 2 idols. I obviously wouldn't have done that plan if I knew he had 2 idols because it completely changes his calculus. So it's definitely before Final Six. I would say probably 7 when I like worked so hard to sway Shannon. Because seven in the moment was like my best week. I was like, wow, this is really great. I think I just turned this boat completely. But I think if I just say, okay, Dale, and I think it is probably Dale. I don't know. I mean, maybe Shannon flips and like tells Dale and he plays an idol or something, but I don't think I go anyways.
I think Dale would have gone if.
I think Dale goes too.
Yeah.
So.
But again, I feel like with the information you knew, it was difficult to know that would have been good for you, you know? Because if Dale goes that week, you guys probably can get Shannon out the next week. Ivy wanted to flip on Shannon anyways, but you probably don't really believe that or know that at the time.
That's my biggest misread in the game. I think generally I was pretty good at teasing out how people felt about other people and me. But my biggest misread was Ivy wanting to go to the final 3 with me. Like a confessional of her saying that she would go to the final 3 with me and Nate and her. That was her ideal final 3. Because she's told that to me multiple times. And I always thought it was bullshit. Like, that's not a chance that's going to I was like, there's no way that's her plan. But that was her plan. And so, big blunder by me. If I had, read that correctly, then obviously I go that route. But I think that I'm gone at final 6 or final 5 if I vote out Dale there. Is what I thought in the moment. I was like, they'll probably just take out Matt next, me at 5, and then final 4 will be Shannon, Ivy, Nate, and Kat. But I mean, I don't know.
It honestly doesn't. I mean, it's fair for you to have misread that because it doesn't really make sense why Ivy would want to take you to the final 3 anyways.
No.
Like, were you guys really close during the game? Like, did you guys strategize together a lot? Because I don't know if there's a ton of footage of that.
No, I mean, I think she just thought I was the most beatable of Dale, me, Matt, Shannon.
But why wouldn't you want to take Kat?
Like, I have no idea. Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense. So I have no idea how there's a confessional of her saying that and how she expected me to believe that. Especially because I had been talking about how like Kat's gonna make the final 3 for sure. It's a lock for like a very long time.
When did you first realize Ivy actually was telling you the truth? Like, did you guys talk about it after you were both voted out, or was it not till you saw this confessional in the show that you like fully understood?
Ivy has said like so much stuff after the fact. I don't know what to believe. I didn't like fully understand this until seeing the confessional.
Was there anything else like about the game or just people in general that you feel like you got a different glimpse of from watching the show versus playing the game that you like didn't realize at the time maybe, or that really surprised you in the watching of it?
Shannon's completely different to the camera than Shannon was like in person or in group meetings. So like it's especially towards the beginning of the game, she was like quiet and like had to leave for hockey practice like multiple times at the beginning. So Shannon was just like not really doing much, it seemed like, didn't really talk much, although Kat dominated the conversation for all the big Tokidoki meetings. And then in our one-on-ones, like Shannon was just kind of, I don't know, quiet, like didn't really say much. So then to see her to the camera, I'd heard after the season, like, oh, Shannon was the best at confessionals. Like Shannon compares everyone to Brett. It's hilarious. And I was like, I don't know about Brett comparisons, but okay. That seems kind of odd. But yeah, then Shannon was like just lobbing bombs at everyone in their confessionals constantly and like crying and screaming. And there's a lot of Shannon going on that I didn't know. And Shannon hating Kat so much in the beginning. I had no idea. We could have bonded over that.
I had a couple of questions. So I know that like early merge, I feel like there's a few kind of like alternative plans that are tossed around, like Jack pitching this meat shields thing, and like you and Dale, potentially considering saving Katie. Like, did you ever seriously consider either of those plans, or no?
So the Jack plan, nah. There's nothing he could do to save himself. Jack was gone at 10 for sure. There's just a good common enemy. We can all agree he's a threat. He makes to the end, he'll win. He'd been like talked up so much beforehand about how amazing he was, how amazing it was that he got Ben out, all that. There's just no reason to keep Jack in. And it seemed like he was, he had Megan's loyalty, so he had an extra one. It seemed like Shannon liked him a lot. I knew Shannon was against me. So I just didn't see him. There was like no reason to keep Jack in the game.
Did you just feel like you already had enough shields at that point that you didn't need another one?
Yeah, I don't need another one. And especially one that's never going to feel like as good with me as the other two do. Although Matt was like sort of against me at times, he then like comes back around to being like, I think Jackson thinks I'm good for his game. Matt and I had a weird oscillating relationship, but Dale thought that like I was solid with them. So those two shields like were good with me because they thought that I was loyal to them / thought they were good for my game. Whereas Jack, I hadn't built up any of that yet. And he was good with other people that like weren't necessarily with me or on my side at all. And so it was probably a mistake for that to be his like last ditch pitch to like me and Dale. Because I think we were probably like the two least likely people to really link up and help him out. Because we felt pretty good where we were.
He was doing all he could. He was
in a rough spot.
He was in a bad
spot. I mean, like there's nothing he could have done to save himself. Katie is a different story. Katie is another. I mean, that was a big vote, kind of a big swing in how things went, because Katie could have gone pretty far in the game. I think like she had a lot of potential to go deep, but there were just all these rumors swirling, and like it was so hard to nail down who or what Katie was and like what she thought about anything, because she was just sort of like a frazzle, just like really laid back, chill person, which is so different from me and like my neurotic and over analytical self. So I was just like, what is Katie? How is she viewing this situation? What is she thinking? And I never knew. And she was like throwing out all these wild, wacky ideas and always talking about like gaining the girls' trust and like kind of saying she was playing both sides, like to me and Dale. And they were like, well, we don't love that. I'd rather you didn't. And so she went when I feel like she probably actually would have stayed with me and Dale. So I don't know. That's another time I could have made a big move, is if I went to Katie and was like, they are voting you out right now. I know you're closer than Dale with me, but like I'll call Dale right now and like talk to him about how we're voting you out. You'll see. And I could have grabbed Katie, and I could have grabbed Megan, who was on the bottom and had no one and would do anything at that point in time. And then if I get Ivy and Nate, who, I mean, Ivy ended up wanting to go after Dale just a couple votes later. So I think she would have done it. Nate obviously would be on board because he's El Norte and doesn't really have any options. So if I get those 5 together, we can go after someone on like the Dale, Shannon, Matt side. And that could be a huge shift. And then I have no idea how the game plays out after that, because that wouldn't be like a solid 5. It would just be a voted block 5 that worked together then. And then who knows what happens.
It would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, also another thing that like unfortunately I think it was a little bit too confusing and to make the cut and didn't really lead to anything, but all the fake clues that you hid leading to a fake vote steal or a fake advantage or whatever it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could have gotten those fake clues out there sooner, but it took me so long to find the real advantage. And I wanted to find the real advantage before like spending this time making a fake scavenger hunt thing. But like, who doesn't want to put like a fake advantage out there and have someone find it? And like the thought of someone playing a fake vote steal was just really funny to me. I mean, having someone stand up proudly at tribal council and try to steal a vote, and I was really hoping they tried to steal my vote. Like that just would have been so funny. So I had to do it. But then I guess like the clues got blown away, my second one. So I had 3 clues and a fake advantage, but the second clue got blown away. So Dale found the first one and went looking for the second one for like a long time, but was never able to find it, unfortunately.
I felt for you on the clues. Like I was like, when I was watching back that footage and you were complaining about the clues, I was like, yeah, these clues don't really make a lot of sense. I feel for him with this one. I don't know what to tell you.
Austin said he scouted via Google Maps. He was looking at locations from Google Maps. That's maybe terrible.
Yeah, maybe not. Another thing that I felt for you on was a lot of people in the comments were kind of ripping on production for the advantage options you had. because pretty much everybody who read it was like, wait a second, these other two are just worse versions of the vote steal. And I was like, yeah, that's completely fair. Like, why did we give him more actual options? This seems like it's just a trick. If we can like basically, I don't know, if you chose one of the other ones, it just seems like significantly worse. Like, was there really any appeal for those other ones for you?
So the only trade-off is that with the extra vote and the vote block, they can be played secretly. Whereas the vote steal, I have to announce it. So if I'm making a move on someone that has an idol, for example, like we were just discussing at Final Six, how I would try to vote for Cat and I would steal, someone else's vote because I'm worried about Dale playing an idol. So you tip your hand with the vote steal. That's the one problem, is you have to publicly announce it before the votes are played. So everyone knows you're up to something, unless you've told them that you have a vote steal and that you're doing blah, blah, blah. But a 2-vote swing is going to be better than a 1-vote swing in more situations, was the thought. So I went with it. Yeah, wasn't a hard decision.
I'm just bummed that your fake clues blew away, honestly, because it would have been so funny if they had followed this fake trail. Like, there's this video of Dale and Shannon both searching for the second one, and they're like freaking out because they can't find it. They're like, Matthew definitely found these already, and he already has the vote steal now, or whatever. He has the advantage. Like, this is the worst. Like, it's not here. It's already been found. Just blew off like a leaf in the wind, I guess.
like a leaf in the wind. Just like
a leaf in the wind.
Yeah, I should have done a better job. I don't know. It was like in this metal tube underneath the curved statue thing, and I thought it would stay there. I even threw some wood chips to like weigh it down, but I guess a wind got in there and blew it or something. I have no idea. Honestly, I thought maybe a member of production was screwing me over and went there and removed it and was like,
"Oh no, we were like really hoping that someone would find it." We were just like, "Has somebody found Jackson's fake thing? Has someone found it yet?" Like, damn it! Like, it blew away.
Yeah, I mean, I would go and check the fake clues every so often, and like it took a long time for the first one to be found, but when it was finally found, I was like, yes. And I went, and the second one was gone, and I was like, that's great. But then I went to the third one, and the third one was still there, and I was like, what the hell? Like, the second clue clearly leads right here, and I kept going back to where that third one was, and it kept just being there. And I don't know. It never thought to me that the second one blew away, but must have.
Was there anything from the edit perspective that you really wanted to be included that was not included, or anything that any footage you had that you were sort of upset was not included in the final version?
Nothing pops to mind immediately. I feel like I got a decent amount of screen time. I had a very generous pre-merge edit, and then a sharp decline post-merge. I think things are probably a little more constant and gradual than that, but I give you your artistic license. No, I don't think there was really anything. Final 7, I think my conversation with Shannon was a lot longer and more important to me than maybe it was shown. But it was sort of shown like Dale was just pulling on her heartstrings, and like that's how Shannon decided not to vote Dale out. Whereas I sort of felt like I talked to Shannon before Dale even knew that his name was out there.
Yeah.
But
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. It's sometimes you gotta, for the drama, we can't have Shannon decide 3 days earlier that she's gonna vote out Ivy.
For sure. Yeah, you're in a tough spot since like none of these votes were suspenseful. Outside of like the Eliza vote,
don't say that. No.
There was no suspense. Eliza vote, you guys should have gotten the footage of me and Dale right before the Eliza vote, actually, where we're like about to go up the stairs, all 4 of us, and Matt walks up, Eliza walks up, and then we look at each other like that was the moment right there, right before tribal. Outside of that, though, like things were decided days in advance, really.
We're obviously not going to make it look like that, though.
Yeah, I know. So,
I mean, honestly, I feel like you're getting voted off was pretty down to the wire, at least like the day before the day of, right?
It was the day before, yeah. So that's the day that Dale was drunk. It was the Saturday, and so that's when drunk Dale just wreaked havoc upon my game and ruined everything.
It was great for the edit. Dale drunkenly said that tribal was tonight, which made it really easy to make it look like it was actually that night. Like in the footage, he's like, yeah, she wants me to vote you out tonight. I was like, oh yes, this is golden. We can easily make this look like it's the same night.
I saw that and I was so confused. I was like, that's not how this went down. And tribal was not that late. I was like at noon on a Sunday.
Like, wow, Dale like sobered up really quick, like cleaned up nice.
Yeah, it would have meant Dale like go home, shower, sober up, like.
But yeah, so I understand the suspense to make things like, oh, which way is it gonna go? But obviously, in the experience, it wasn't like that for most of them.
I mean, any other final thoughts? Like, what was your favorite moment from the season?
Favorite moment? You know, is it going to be voting someone out? That's always fun. Honestly, the Cooper revealing the votes and seeing like that it is going your way, because even no matter how confident you feel, you are going to be nervous and anxious before every single tribal council. Like, you're just going to be worried, like, what if everything is going against me? What if like all this is bullshit? Everyone's lying and conspiring against me every time. And so the happiest moments, not just because you're crushing someone else, you know, and like ending their game, but your game is continuing on. It's just seeing a plan come together is so beautiful. And so from the first one, seeing like Adam's name come up over and over again, all the way till, you know, Ivy's name coming up over and over again. Even seeing my name come up, I enjoy it. I was like, damn, they got me. Once again, that was edited like I was on the edge of my seat. Like, I see 2 Jacksons. Is there going to be another one? Once there was 1 Jackson vote, I was like, okay, I'm gone. Because if things had gone my way, there would not have been a single Jackson vote. Once there was 1 Jackson, it's like, okay, I'm out. But I'm like, get on. They got me. They got me bad.
Yeah, appreciate the perspective, because I feel like you definitely take the game a lot more like a game than other people did in the season, which is like people, you know, I think that it's good for TV both ways. Like, it's good if you have some people that are like, wow, every vote's so emotional, like this is killing me. And it's also good to have people like you where like after the vote, you're like, wow, that was hilarious. They were so blindsided. It's such a good feeling. Like, so I thought that it was good. Like you definitely, I think you even said right after you were voted off, like, I'm not bitter at all, you know, like it's a game. It was a fun time. So I think it was fun to have. You have very different people on the season for sure.
For sure, I'm way over on this end of the spectrum, whereas Shannon was like way on this end. And that's like one of my biggest weaknesses was like understanding that basically that like some people will view this game so emotionally and so much just about like their interpersonal connections as opposed to like what is beneficial for their game strategically. And so I sometimes would talk to people the way that I wanted to be talked to and like presented with, you know, some like logic driven argument about the risks associated with each move and everything. Whereas like they just wanted to hear that like you liked them as a person or something. Whereas to me, I don't give a shit if someone likes me as a person. That doesn't factor in at all into like whether I will move forward in the game with you. But it did for some people. And so that's for sure a mistake. And there was one time I told Shannon I wanted to go for the Final Four with her, Dale, Nate, and Ivy. So I was 4. And she's like, do you really want to do that though? And I laid out a really great logical argument that by process of elimination, like that was my ideal Final Four. Like those were the Final Four I wanted because I didn't want to go to the Final Four with any of the other like 5 people that were in the game, which to me, flawless argument. I would love that if someone presented it to me. But I could tell immediately Shannon was like, not feeling this at all. And then Dale afterwards calls me and is like, did you tell Shannon you wanted to go Final Four by process of elimination? You fucking idiot. Because Shannon just wants to like, I don't know, be told that you like her as a person and that your friendship is important or some dumb shit. But wasn't how I viewed the game, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, you need to just be best friends with Shannon and bond over hating Cat at the beginning of the game. I mean, that's your biggest mistake, I guess.
Yeah. One of many. You know, you live and you learn. It's always next time. Or is there? Who knows? Is there an All-Star season? Who knows?
I don't know.
None of us know.
No, definitely not.
Cool. Well, yeah, it's been really great talking with you, Jackson. Really awesome having you on the season and all that. And yeah, it's been nice catching up.
Happy to be here. Thanks for spending all the time, you know, putting the story together and editing. Ian, that's quite an undertaking. Sam, I know you're really involved, so
it is quite an undertaking.
Thanks, and sorry for the hours of footage of me you probably had to watch. Probably just like hate the sound of my voice by now.
No, yours was some of the more entertaining footage, honestly. So like, you know, it's fine. Some people, honestly, season 4 in general was a lot like in a certain respect easier than some of the other seasons because there was really very few people who were just like straight up boring.
Glad to hear it.
Thanks for coming on, Jackson. Really nice talking, dude. And peace out.
See ya.
Wow. Good to hear from Jackson.
Amazing.
What a guy.
Amazing. Honestly, like probably the best interview in the history of interviews. You'll never see a better interview.
A bit starstruck. I'm still a bit starstruck right now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I can't believe he was really here, honestly.
Yeah. Did we dream that? Are you sure? Is that one of the Survivor dreams like Katie has?
I don't know. Yeah. I dream about Jackson every night, so
yeah.
maybe that's
Lavana,
just me.
Lavana like planting dreams in your mind.
Yeah, every night Lavana comes to me in a dream and says, "Oh, Jackson, Jackson." That's the dream I have every night is Lavana whispering Jackson to me. So
wow, Lavana's been visiting you. That must be a sign of good luck or a bad omen, however one is.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It could be one or the other. It could be both, honestly.
I mean, it seems like seems like it didn't work out so well for Katie. It worked out well for Katie, so it'll work out well for you.
Survivor dreams can be good or bad, you know. It's a little bit like I feel like Survivor dreams are similar to like demigod dreams and like Percy Jackson. If any of you out there are familiar with this, like they can give you these premonitions. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. You don't really know. Best not to think too hard about them.
There you go. Well, with that being said, shall we eulogize Jackson?
Sure.
All right. You want to start or want me to start?
I can start.
All right.
You know, Jackson, he played a good game. Some would even say a great game. Someone played the greatest game of all time. But sadly, even the greatest game of all time can run into a roadblock. The puzzler, you know, the swag daddy, Shannon, Kat, Matthew, they just weren't going to let him get that far because they knew that if he made it to the end, he'd obviously win the game. He was obviously going to win the game. So it made sense to get rid of him because he was obviously going to win the game. How did he get voted out? He doesn't even really know. We don't really know. It doesn't make sense why they would go after the greatest player in history. But, you know, maybe one day we'll see him again. I don't know. Who can say?
We can hope and dream. We can still hope and dream.
We can dream. We can keep dreaming about him. I hope he keeps crawling in the sand and winning those challenges. And maybe one day he'll challenge Rec and be better than 50%. Maybe he'll be better than that. The greatest player of all time, 6-6 in challenges.
6-6 in challenges.
Yeah. He's honestly lucky. This is actually all part of his plan because he knew he would lose the next challenge. So if he had lost the next challenge, he'd be 6-7. You know, and he would have a losing record.
Can't go below 500.
No. This was all part of his plan. It was all part of Belichick's plan. It was all Jackson's plan.
It's part of the process. Part of the plan. There you go. Yeah. I mean, Jackson, I feel like, first of all, I just want to say he is, I think, the best villain in the whole entire series. Like,
oh yeah,
there's no one comes close. Like, Jackson was just such a big presence, such a big character, hilarious. He delivers on every single one of his confessionals. Like, I think that, you know, love him or hate him, like, you can't deny that you'll not forget Jackson. Like, you will remember Jackson. He was such a great character, such a great person to be on the show, and I feel like he did play a really good game. I think that we've talked a little bit about it already, that some of his mistakes were just that I feel like he just came to a point where there was just too much information that he didn't know, and it screwed him over. I think he had a solid plan for getting to the final three, but it just wasn't going to work because Dale had the idols. He didn't really know about how close Dale was with Shannon, and he kind of just misplayed his relationships with like Ivy and with Nate, and honestly, could even argue he misplayed with Megan as well. I mean, he had a plan, and I feel like his plan would have worked if Shannon would have went here at 6. I think Jackson's plan could have worked out. Maybe, you know, Dale has Idol at 5. He wanted to take out Dale at 5, so I don't know. I think what it comes down to is like Jackson, he played really well. He had a very strong game. If he made it to the end, I think he would have had a really great pitch to win. But it came to a point where he just was missing too much information, and that kind of like caused him to make decisions that weren't as good as he thought that they were. So if someone's gonna, you know, at a certain point, like you're gonna get, like I think you worded it perfectly earlier. Like sometimes what the things you don't know are even worse than things you do know. I think that's what bit Jackson.
Yep. Tough.
Tough.
But he was an amazing character on the show. Fantastic
Yep.
TV. One of the best narrators Survivor Michigan's ever seen.
Oh,
Probably
easily.
the best, honestly. He probably is the best narrator. Like, he had a great way of describing things. So clear and concise. So funny. We'll miss him. Miss him every day.
Yep. You know, he's like the Michael Jordan of confessionals, except for he didn't have to get carried off the court.
Exactly. So be like him, MJ.
Yeah, be like me, MJ. All right. So Jackson got 6th place. We have a pantheon of 6th place people. Let's see where Jackson ranks.
This is going to be hard. This is going to be
It's
really
a
hard.
hard one. Right now, we currently have number 1 is Liz. Number 2 is Jack Tiggleman. Good old Jack. And number 3 is Brady from season 3.
So I think right off the bat, I think Jackson should be above Brady. I think.
Yeah.
I think that Brady had a few really bad tribals. Like besides the one where he got voted out, like things did not go right for Brady for like most of the merge. And
That's
so true. I don't think that was the case for Jackson. Like Jackson, things were going pretty okay for him right up to the point he got voted out.
I agree. He didn't have one vote until the week he was voted off.
Right. Oh, did Brady before that? He probably did, I guess. I don't know. I can't remember.
I think he did. I think that he got votes at the.
Yes, because they voted.
The one where the
Aaron
idols
played an idol for him. Yeah.
I think that Brady was a big threat to win the game, and as people were constantly talking about it. But I think he was mostly a threat due to his challenge wins. I mean, he was a very charismatic person. People liked him, but I think they were more threatened, like, oh, Brady's such a challenge threat. He's going to win all the challenges and get to the end. And I think that one of the things we talked about is, like, Brady relied very heavily on winning challenges to make it to the end, whereas, like, you know, some of the other people, like Jackson or Jack or Liz, they didn't need to rely on challenges because they're positioned better socially within the tribe.
Yeah. I think Liz probably has to maintain number 1 for sure. Just because I think that of this group of final 6 of these 6 placers, I feel like Liz wins the game in more scenarios from that final 6 onwards. Like if Liz plays the idol on herself, or if a number of different things happen, I feel like Liz could have won even at the scenario of final 6. Versus like I don't know how many scenarios that like honestly Jack, Brady, or Jackson are able to win in with the final 6 they had. Like they all were in kind of a tough. They all had played themselves into sort of a tough spot where they were like perceived as one of the bigger threats, and it would have been really hard for them to get to the end. I think
that's true. I think that one of the things we talked about between Jack and Liz was that I think if either of them make it to the end, they're just going to win the game. But the difference between Jack and Liz is that Jack, like, I feel like Jack misplayed his position a little bit worse, and like he was a little bit more out of the loop.
I think by the time Jack got voted out, Jack didn't have any allies left though.
No,
versus like
he really lost like all of his allies and his power by then. Liz had both the Alexes,
right?
And she really just like, the way she went out was so rough,
right? But, so I think she has to be number 1. And the question for
Jackson
me is
versus Jack is
Jackson
tough.
versus Jack, because it's tough. Because on one hand, you could argue Jack basically misplayed 2 idols, and could have used that to maybe save himself a few more weeks, or maybe like he could have gotten to Final 4 maybe if he had done it with his idols what Dale did with them, right? So, or if he had saved them, till 6.
I feel like Jack playing his at 8 is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that one, because at Final 8, for all Jack knew, it was going to be 4-4. And I don't know if people are going to go to rocks for Jack. The one at Final 7 was an egregious mistake. He should not have done that.
Yeah, that was completely unneeded. So
that was bad.
But then you could also argue that Jackson, though, like, had kind of played himself. Like, the fact is he played himself into a position where, like, he also didn't really have any allies at Final 6, And it's kind of hard to see a scenario where his best play would have probably been getting rid of Dale, but that's not something that's at 7. But honestly, there's no scenario where that really happens, Like, he's not going to do that in any scenario, right?
No.
So Jack, it's like
they both made I think they both made a mistake at Final 7 that
I agree.
I
They're
feel
both
like for Jack, it was
honestly
the
they
worst.
play kind of
Yeah.
they play kind of similar.
I think they did. I think that Jack was much more known as like he's the biggest threat in the game, whereas Jackson kind of had more shields around him. Like he had Dale and like Matthew as like shields, whereas I guess Jack
Yeah.
had me and Sarah, but I think the game they kind of viewed Jack as like he is the threat to win.
I feel like
Whereas,
Jackson honestly was maybe a slightly better strategist on his original season than Jack was, but I feel like Jack had maybe a better social game. I think that like more people actually like Jack had more
yeah,
people who were actually kind of in with him still, versus like I feel like Jackson didn't really near the end he didn't have a lot of people who really wanted to work with him. He basically
there's some,
voted like
yeah,
Ivy and Megan were basically the last two people that really wanted to work with Jackson. He voted them out.
that's true.
Like that's a poor read.
I feel like Jack, yeah, he his
don't
social
know.
game. I think he always plays with a very very good social game.
Oh
but
yeah, for sure.
Jackson, his social game was not as great. Where people like Shannon constantly want him out just because she was like annoyed by him, basically.
Right. Whereas I don't feel like anyone was really annoyed by Jack at all
No,
on season 2.
I will say another
So-
mistake that Jack made though was he didn't really reach out to Nick or Lucy at all. Like they're kind of like free votes.
Yeah.
I guess you could say Jackson did the same thing with Kat, where he never really reached out to her.
Yeah, that's a little more forgivable though, because nobody was reaching out to Kat. Like really nobody was trying to reach out to Kat except for Shannon. So I don't know if you can really.
Yeah.
Versus like Jack could have been trying to work with Nick a little harder.
I think Nick was trying to save Jack at Final 6, and then Jack refused to even attend a meeting with him. And Nick was going to tell Jack, like, "Hey, by the way, buddy, like you're getting voted off."
What could have been?
I feel like Jack played a better game than Jackson up until the final 8, and then Jack, I think he really kind of misplayed the end of his game. Whereas Jackson, like,
I could be talked into putting Jackson in second here. Honestly, I think I could be talked into it. I think that it's very, very close. I think Liz honestly did play better than both of them.
Yeah,
to an extent, or whether or not she played better, I think she was in a better position at Final 6 than either of them were. A much better position.
I agree with that. If we just go by who was in the best position to win the game at the Final 6, if they had made it through,
I feel like it probably does go Liz, Jackson, Jack, just because I think that Jack would have had to win both challenges to get to the end. And I think that Jackson could have still maybe gotten to the end without winning. I don't think he needs to win both challenges.
Do you think that Jackson has any chance of getting past the Final 5 if Dale has the idol at Final 5? I mean, he has to win the if he doesn't win the challenge, is there any chance that Jackson stays in the game?
I think if Nate's still in and Matthew's still in, I think there's a chance either of them go home over Jackson there, honestly. I think there's a chance of that. I don't know.
If Jack,
what is it? Are we saying Shannon goes home? Shannon goes home at 6. Is that the idea? Shannon goes home at 6.
Yeah.
And then let's say, I mean, it depends who wins the challenge. Honestly,
Jackson even says like, "Oh, I'm definitely gonna go for Dale at Final 5."
Yeah, the issue is Dale has
Dale is gonna be pissed that Jackson's going after him.
Jackson probably gets out at 5.
I feel like both Jackson or Jack is out at 5 if they don't win the challenge.
Yeah, they probably were. Jackson probably wouldn't have been out at 5 if he doesn't try to go after Dale. But if he's going to go after Dale, then he probably gets idled out by Dale.
I also feel like in retrospect, we say that Jack made a really stupid move by not playing his idol, at Final 7. But from his perspective, like he didn't really think that Sarah was going to turn on him. And he thought that he was like earning loyalty with Sarah and Mike and Mallory to like make it to the Final 4.
I guess, but like that doesn't make any sense.
I guess so. It's the same thing you could say about Jackson and Ivy. Like where, from his perspective, I feel like both of them, the mistake at Final 7 that they made, like
it was very
makes sense from their perspective, but from knowing the whole full picture, it's like a dumb.
Personally, I think that the whole idea of like playing an idol that you don't need to like earn loyalty is just like that makes no sense to me. But like those you're giving up something and you're not getting anything in return for that. Like there's no guarantee they're gonna stick with you after you're doing that. You're just now down an idol. Yeah,
you're just basically like putting.
Like, you really think Mike and Mallory are going to take you to the end? Like, why would they do that? Honestly, like Jack and Jackson might be basically even. Like, it's hard for me to see really why one should be over the other.
I do think that Jack's mistake at Final 7 is less forgivable than anything that Jackson did
Yes.
at the
On
end
the
of
other
the season.
hand, though, I think that Jack played him. He was more in with people. Like you're just saying that Nick maybe was trying to save him at 6. No one's trying to save Jackson.
It's true. Jack also did pretty much run he knew everything that was happening like the entire game.
So
Like I
did
think that
Jackson,
he
though.
also Jack found both of the idols and he knew where all the idols were the whole game. Jackson didn't know that stuff.
Yeah,
Jackson knew less information.
but the only comparison there is really finding the idols versus not finding them, which is like not necessarily. It's not like he knew less.
I
Besides the idols, he didn't know. There was no information what was happening in the game that Jackson like didn't really know. Besides like how close Shannon and Dale were, I guess.
I mean that ended up being like part of his
Well,
downfall
Jack
though.
didn't
Like
know how close Sarah and Mike were, though.
that's true. I just feel like knowing where the idols are is a big piece it's a piece of information that really like can affect
Yeah,
really
I
can
guess
help
I
your
would like. I'd be more willing to give that props to Jack if it was like Sarah or somebody had the idols and Jack got her to
Jack
like
knew
tell
about
her
them.
about it. But like him finding them versus like it's just like Jack like found them.
Maggie told him about her idol too, like immediately.
Yeah,
So he always knew where the idols
but
were,
like
like all of them.
but like I feel like if that's like if Megan had found an idol, like would she have told Jackson? Like, is it really Jackson's fault that there wasn't a Maggie around to tell him that she had the idol? Like, I don't know if I can
I mean,
blame.
maybe if he had managed
How
his
can I?
relationships better than they would
But
have.
Dale's never gonna tell him that.
Oh, that's true.
Like there's no scenario where Jackson finds out about an idol from Dale or Elisa because they're just not gonna do that. So I don't know if I
That's
can
true.
really give that. It's not like I don't know if that was really a point in Jack. I don't feel like Jack got Maggie to tell him. I feel like Maggie just like told him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
If you run the simulation, this is the old trick. You run the simulation 100 times. Who's going to get further in the game, Jack or Jackson?
I think it's probably Jack, actually, to be honest. Like, if you run season 2 100 times and you run season 4 100 times, I feel like in more scenarios, there's more scenarios where Jack maybe saves an idol or Jack has like, maybe Jack somehow gets in with like Lucy or Nick or somebody. Like, I could see that happening more than I can see Jackson really surviving that much longer. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me. I think it's very close for the record.
It's very close. They're very, very close. And they played very similar games.
Yeah, they really did. Their game fell apart at like the same exact time, basically.
If we're gonna give Jack the edge over Jackson, I mean, also it's kind of funny that we're debating this because Jackson also voted off Jack in this season. But it's also like a different. We're comparing season 2 Jack.
That's not really fair. That's not really a fair comparison. I don't think. Like, it's a completely different thing. Like, Jack was a returning. There was so many different dynamics there that you can't really say that Jackson should get honestly though, if that's the reasoning, fine. They went head to head and Jackson beat him. Like,
I do think that what we're saying, if we're giving Jack the edge, like I do think his social game was better than Jack's social game, and usually social game is more valuable to have than strategic game because people will want to vote for you versus I feel like if Jackson gets to the end, there might be more people that are bitter at him or
I don't know. I think Jackson could have won season 4 though in a lot of scenarios at the end.
I do too.
I don't think that I don't think the jury would like disliked him so much that they wouldn't have voted for him. Honestly, I think that he would have.
You think that Megan would vote for Jackson?
Maybe. I don't know. I think it's definitely possible, depending who he was up against. I think if it was like him and
Ivy
I think
and Nate.
Honestly, I think
Megan votes for Nate or Ivy
Jackson's
over
best
Jackson?
final 3 would have been Matthew and Kat. To be honest.
Well, yeah, that's what he wanted to do. I think, right?
I guess I think that would have been his best final 3. I feel like Nate. There's a risk that Megan and some of the Elnor will vote for Nate.
I don't see any scenario final 3 that Jack loses if he gets to the final 3.
You don't think he would have lost to Sarah?
Not if Sarah hadn't taken him out. It's a different game from then on. How could Sarah argue that she had played the game better than Jack at that point?
I guess I don't know. I guess it just feels like she played the
looking at the perception
him,
that the jury had at that time. Like we all kind of thought that like Jack was running the game and Sarah was part of the alliance. Like I feel like the perception really changed after Sarah like took Jack out. We were like, oh, wait, she actually took all of us out. Like at this point.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
If Jack had went to the end, it'd be kind of like,
is there any final 3 that Jack loses in?
No.
Right, so that's the reason why Jack should be above Jackson. Because there's a lot of final 3. Like Jackson probably loses to Shannon. He probably loses to Dale. Like he could lose to Nate. He could even lose. I think he could even lose to Ivy if Ivy gets that final three of her, Jackson, Nate, and Ivy then gives, if she has a strong pitch of like, yeah, I blindsided Dale with Shannon, then I blindsided Shannon the next week. Like, I ran all of this. What did Jackson do? Nothing. Like, I don't know. I feel like
Jackson's vote steal doesn't matter for anything. He didn't need it.
Yeah, and I drug my goat Nate to the end. Like, that would be her pitch, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
I'm fine with that.
I feel like Ivy gets Shannon's vote. I feel like Ivy gets Kat's vote. I feel like Ivy gets, I don't know. Dale and Matthew probably vote for Jackson. But I don't know. It's interesting. I think Jack has the edge just for that reason alone, maybe. In more final threes, he wins than Jackson does.
All right, let's lock that in. Final six place rankings. Number 1 is Liz, stays at the top. Number 2 is Jack from season 2. Number 3 is Jackson, just barely behind Jack, very close. And number 4 is Brady.
What do you think it would take to unseat Liz? Like, will anyone ever do it?
Liz played a very good game. She played a very good game. I think that is possible, though.
We'll have to see.
We'll have to see. There's many more seasons in the making.
For sure.
All right. And then with that, we only have one episode left. We're on to the finale.
Tune in Wednesday night, 23rd, 8 p.m. The final episode of Survivor Michigan Wolverine Wars. The final battle of this war. The war comes to an end.
Is it going to be a good one? Is it going to be something the audience is going to enjoy?
Oh, it's going to be a good one. It is going to be a good one. Fireworks. I promised fireworks at this finale.
You heard it from the man himself. So tune in on Wednesday. We'll see you all there.